compliance regulations, the chat feature is disabled. If you have a question, please feel free to send your question through email to me at shannon@kingwealth.com, and we will address the questions at the end of the session. Again, we're recording, and this presentation will be available on our website afterwards. That concludes housekeeping items. Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Shannon, and thank you, Joe, for bringing your expertise to us today. Do we have Joe up on the webcam? There he is. Hi, Joe. How's the weather on the East Coast?
It's a little chilly, but it's nice and sunny.
Nice. Well, almost 20 years ago, I had an identity theft perpetrated against me and got me on the mission to uncover and understand, all these different types of financial frauds and help protect clients and family. I ended up writing the Identity Theft Resource Kit, started a company to combat identity theft, lectured in public settings, and also tried to educate the financial planning community about the risks. And we're really at the forefront of assisting clients to protect themselves. And of course, since that time, scams have evolved to become nearly a daily occurrence across so many different avenues that Joe's going to address for us today. And one thing we did probably a decade ago is emphasizing the importance of a trusted contact. So even before it was like a formal agreement, we started emphasizing just knowing someone in your family or, just a trusted person that could assist us and you in case of suspected fraud or poor financial decision making. And then as a team, we can step in and help protect your financial life. And I can't tell you how many significant instances we've helped protect and defend our clients from. So we believe having trusted contacts is an important part of everyone's financial well-being. So if your trusted contact is on the call today, we want to thank you for being part of that team. And if not, really encourage them to tune into the recording when it's up on our website. Or better yet, have them call me directly and we'll have a conversation about how they can help out in that capacity. So let's meet Joe Hill. He's the senior analyst on LPL's information security team. He's going to be sharing his knowledge on cybersecurity and other avenues for scams and how it relates to you and keeping your information safe. Just a quick bio about Joe. Got a wealth of IT experience working in the industry for more than 14 years. Prior to joining the advisor information security team at LPL, he managed network infrastructure, server systems, provided direct support for IT-related systems. Joe's a proud veteran of the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service, Joe. Very happily married with 2 children, and like me, in his spare time, he's an avid endurance runner and lover of the outdoors. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Joe, and we'll hopefully have some questions at the end.
Sure, thank you, Paul. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you see my screen okay?
Looks good.
Awesome. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. As Paul mentioned, my name is Joe, and I kind of want to walk through a few things to help cybersecurity seem a little simpler, right? And kind of give you some tools to help you stay safe and to help protect your identity, because it's really a dangerous landscape out there, and it's a dangerous place to be in the world of the cyber world that we live in. So it's our goal to make sure that we're providing all the tools and capabilities possible to help you stay safe. So kind of going through a quick agenda, just kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. So I kind of want to give you some ideas of how LPL is protecting your information and how we work with Paul and his team to do that. I want to go in a little more detail and a little further depth on cyber attacks, primarily how these cyber attacks work, who's behind them, how to avoid them, things of that nature, ways that you can secure your accounts from your point of view, ways you can protect your family, and then, as Paul mentioned, we'll have some questions at the end, if there are any. We'll answer those then. So diving right in, for us here at LPL, cybersecurity really starts with you, all right? And that's the most important thing, is keeping your information safe, keeping your data safe, and make sure we're doing everything we can to protect you and your information. And we do that by having a very close partnership with Paul and his team at King Wealth Planning, and making sure that we're doing everything we can to give them the tools as well. And we do that from a number of ways. For one, by reoccurring trainings. Every year it's required that Paul and his team have these recurring trainings on cybersecurity and privacy and things of that nature, just to make sure everything is up to date and they have the most current information possible. And then we have that personal relationship, right? We think of Paul as being a friend of our program, and really just having that good connection to where he and his team can reach out to us anytime needed, so that we can help with any questions, any guidance, or any issues that may arise. And we're constantly providing secure financial tools. That way, he can have his security at his front, and making sure that anything that he does has a security mindset to it. And here at LPL, we have a dedicated cyber staff of over 125 individuals that are essentially working around the clock to help keep everything safe, secure, spot these anomalies, spot these attacks, and just handle any incidents that may arise. And we have advanced cyber insurance so that we can make sure that we're protecting if anything does come about. And we have state-of-the-art facilities. As you can see, I'm here in our Fort Mill office over in South Carolina, and we have a very state-of-the-art facility that has a lot of different tools, a lot of different capabilities, and a lot of things that it keeps security really at the forefront of everything we do as a company.
Hey, Joe, I have a question. One of the tools we have that you employ for us is a testing mechanism where we get fake scams come through email, and we identify those, throw them up to the report them through the portal. Any way to port that down to the customer level? Is there any tools like that where we could test our clients and see if they're recognizing some of these things?
Unfortunately, there's not, and a couple of reasons why is we have to really own the email domain. Otherwise, if we don't, if we just send these testing emails to someone else, to a particular individual, now we're kind of being the bad guy in that sense. We're really phishing them, right? We're doing it at the right intent, but intent only goes so far. And then also we have to be able to monitor the mailbox and see what's really going on as far as like a detailed level. We just don't have access to the mailboxes in that sense. There are different ways that we can assist if there's, maybe someone believe their mailbox may be compromised. Definitely they can reach out to you. You can reach out to us, and we can kind of assist in best practices or identifying if that is the case or not.
Yeah, we've certainly done that, but it's up to them to recognize it's happening.
Correct. The best thing is, and I'm gonna go through some ways to identify emails, but the best way is just really being diligent, kind of looking and keeping an eye on everything as it's working and on a live basis. So one thing that we do have, and we want to point out, it seems new. It's really not. It's really posted out as our cyber fraud guarantee. And what this is just kind of showing you that our commitment to security and our commitment to you, our investors and our advisors as well. And you can actually find this on our LPL page. So if you ever want to refer back to this, you can go to lpl.com and look at our cybersecurity page. And I can provide this to Paul as a direct link if needed to where he can share out. But essentially, how the guarantee reads is just, I'm going to read it verbatim, being that it's a very important piece, but LPL will reimburse you for 100% of realized losses in your impacted LPL accounts, which were incurred directly as a result of unauthorized access to an LPL system. And essentially what that means is systems that we house here, we're confident in our security posture, confident in the tools that we've put in and the experts that we have here that's working on those systems, and we can back that by a full 100% guarantee on that. So I want to dive into the presentation a little bit more and more of a detailed type scenario and kind of really dig into cyber attacks. And to really dive into cyber attacks, we have to know who the cyber attackers are and who's behind the attacks, right? If we know who's behind the attacks and we know their ambitions or their motives per se, or kind of have an idea of it, then we can kind of, we know how to fight that a little bit better. If you look at this particular slide and you look over on the right-hand side, the amber or orange, these are going to be more large-scale attacks. These are going to be things you might see on the news. You're going to see, printed all over the place, that they're important and they're good to know about. But we're not necessarily going to be the direct recipient of these type of attacks. These are going to be things like the SolarWinds incident that happened in 2021, the meatpacking facility that was hit by ransomware, the global pipeline incident that happened here on the East Coast that really affected us trying to get fuel. Those kind of things are what are going to be classified in the espionage, terrorism, warfare, country-to-country attacks, large-scale attacks, and that kind of instance. What we're going to focus on more is over on the left side, the Hack Division Crime Insider. While the right side is going to affect us, indirectly, the left side is going to affect us more directly. These are going to be individuals that have a particular purpose and are going after maybe a monetary gain, going after sensitive information to have another attack for monetary gain, things of that nature. Maybe just a straight criminal that's trying to have a criminal enterprise over a cybersecurity or a cyber landscape and using cyber tools or attacks. Maybe an insider that is just someone that is an internal employee, a disgruntled employee, maybe an uneducated employee, something to that nature. So that's more of what we're going to be looking at. And regardless of who the attacker is, when you're thinking about social engineering attacks, these attacks are designed to take advantage of your human emotion. That's their whole purpose, is really, they want that knee-jerk reaction, and they want something that's going to be quick and really get your anxiety, your fear, nervousness, or whatever it may be. They're going to try and pull at that so that you act in a way that's not in your best interest. These different social engineering attacks, we've broken down to 4 main categories that we see on a regular basis. However, these are not the only ones that are out there. These are just some of the more predominant ones. And things like phishing. Phishing is a huge problem. About 90% of all attacks have to do with phishing or start with phishing attack. What these are suspicious emails that are sent to large groups of individuals at essentially at one time. They're sent to tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and they're going to have some type of action they're required, such as clicking a link, opening attachment, maybe even a phone number for you to call in so they can further their ruse and further their attack that way. As a result of these phishing attacks, a lot of times we have ransomware. Ransomware is a horrible virus. It's basically a malicious software that gets deployed on your machine that encrypts all of your files. It could be files you've created, files that you own, maybe a document that you actually started yourself, and now you can't open or access that document. And I'm going to cover those two a little more detail later on in the presentation. But then we have scams, and scams are really just realistic looking emails or tricks and traps and different things that they kind of set up to have someone that's unsuspecting or have someone that doesn't understand or identify it as a scam to expose their personal, their financial, or maybe even corporate information. They're just trying to gather that information, that sensitive information, again, that they can use in various attacks. And then there's email impersonation, to where maybe your email is compromised, someone's email is compromised, and that email compromise, a bad actor can go through and find various email threads that are already open, find sensitive information that's already there, and these are very dangerous. They're hard to see sometimes, but using the red flags and the identifiers that I'm going to show you, you should be able to find these and identify these in a little bit better sense, or at least have a little more ammunition to fight against these type of attacks.
And Joe,
so we look at,
I don't know if you were going to cover it, but for those emails, we cannot accept trade instructions from clients over email. We can get an indication, but we're always going to call them directly, speak to them directly to get any sort of authorization for that reason. We occasionally get those types of emails that look really legitimate and from a client. So it's a legal rule that we have to do that, and we enforce it 100%.
Correct. And there's scams that actually go along with that I'm going to cover later on that kind of isolate on that. But that's one great thing about LPL is we put security at the forefront so much that we have policies and requirements such as what you're referencing, to where advisors must speak either to a their client by phone or face or something like that to help eliminate those kind of issues. So when we're looking at phishing emails, as I mentioned, phishing emails they're a very big problem, right? And they're very, very common, and they're becoming more common, and they're becoming a higher and higher piece of threat, essentially, to everyone, regardless of your social status, regardless of your industry, your age, whatever. Phishing emails are something we're going to have to deal with. Now, if you look at this example, this is an example of a phishing email. And if you look through here, there's several red flags, and I'm going to go through and point them out. But what I like to do on these emails, and what I recommend, is something I call the top-down approach. And what I mean by that is I start at the very top of the email, and then I work my way down. I do this for a very specific reason, regardless of how you're looking at the email. It could be through Outlook, it could be a webmail, it could be a cell phone, a tablet, whatever it is. These emails are generally going to look and be constructed the same, in that you're going to have who it's from, who it's to, a timestamp, and your subject line on the very top. But then you're going to have the body down toward the bottom. And so no matter how you're looking at it, if you start at the very top and work your way down, you're able to identify all the red flags, identify the different key indicators that show if it's actually a good or potentially fraudulent email. So one thing you want to start with, and one of the most important pieces, is who the email is coming from. You do not want to interact with any email or any communication, for that matter, from someone that you do not know. If it's an unknown sender, you don't want to be interacting with it without verifying who that is. As you see, we've got John Doe on the name. That could essentially be anyone's name. That could say my name. It could have Paul's name. It could have anyone's name there. And it's very easy, actually, to do for someone that's experienced in cybersecurity or experienced in these different attacks. It's very easy for someone to hide their name that way. What you want to look at is the actual email address. You want to verify that email address and know that it's someone that you actually know, and someone that you trust to be sending you these type of emails. Then you want to look at, I think, then the second most important part at the very beginning is the subject. These are two very important pieces, because before you even open the email, you're going to see who it's from and the subject. And that subject is going to try and draw you in, and as I mentioned, kind of prey on your human emotions and try and get you dragged into that email, because you have to open the email and interact for it to be successful. If you take the email and you just delete it, or if you report it to someone or something like that, obviously the bad actor and the individual sending these emails, they're not actually being successful. So they want you to open, and they want you to open with urgency and something that's going to try and act really quickly without your best interest at heart. They're going to do things like it's going to be claimed now. They're going to put dates. They're going to put monetary value, something like that, in the subject line. Once you kind of move down into the body of the email, you want to look at the greeting. The greeting is very important because, as I mentioned, these are sent to tens or hundreds of thousands of people at a time. You're going to have a generic greeting. Dear customer, dear employee, dear sir or ma'am, maybe dear your email address. It's very easy for these attackers to take a script and just automatically insert your email address so it looks personable, but it's really not. If it says dear Joe, well, it's going to be applicable to me. But if Paul gets that email, obviously it's not for him because his name's not Joe, right? So it's going to be something that's very generic, and it's going to hit everyone at one time. Then you're going to look at the body of the email, and you're going to be looking for spelling and grammatical errors. This isn't as prevalent of a attack vector as it used to be, but it's still very important. It used to be very, very big and very apparent. Sometimes now it's not, but you have to still look. And if you see these spelling or grammatical errors, that's a definite key indicator to stop and really investigate the rest of the email. One of the bigger parts of the body is any suspicious links or attachments. And this could even include phone numbers, but you want to look for links and attachments specifically in a very specific way. If you have emails such as this and you have a link, if you look at the very beginning, there's actually a few different things going on with this link here. If you look at the very beginning, it just says HTTP, right? You want to only interact with emails or links, excuse me, that start in HTTPS, and that S stands for secure, and it basically just validating a certificate is good from where it's sending from, that it's a good website, and that it's been validated. Facebook.com only has HTTPS. If you have a Facebook.com link and it shows HTTP, do not click on that. I would already just assume that is fraudulent itself. But if you look further at this link and you look on the right-hand side where it says survey winner, it actually doesn't say survey winner. It says W lowercase l. I'll point this out not to be nitpicky and not to just have something else to throw on the screen, but this is a common attack vector that attackers use. They'll change one letter that looks very similar to another, such as a lowercase I to a lowercase l, because when we read this quickly, if we speed read, we're going to see the first and last letter of the word. We're going to see about how long it is. Even if the letters in between are jumbled up, our brain will automatically interpret the pointer. So it's very important to carefully look at these links, carefully go through each letter and know where we're going, know what the links are saying, and know what's going on. This actually happened one time for a company that I was a part of. Someone actually was masquerading, changed a lowercase I in the email to a lowercase l. It was not going through our systems, but it was going from theirs. They were reaching out to someone else in behalf of that company, and the recipient never understood. They didn't see that for several weeks. So it's very popular thing. It actually is something that really happens, and it's very easy to miss at times if we're not careful.
Joe, what would you do with unsubscribe links?
That depends. If it's an email, so if it's an email that you know that you've subscribed to or something that you're waiting for, then it really depends on if you've subscribed to it before. If it's something that you have not subscribed to, it's not a newsletter that you're familiar with, sometimes those subscribe links could actually have malicious content to them, and it could actually be a trap to where if you hit unsubscribe, it's maybe subscribe or it's going to take you to a website. I would avoid those unless you know for sure where that email is coming from. And then one of the last things real quick just to mention in phishing emails is the signature. The signature isn't the end all be all, but it should tie into the email in some way. And if it's very off-putting, if it's something that has no relation to the email at all, then it kind of makes for a much bigger issue and much bigger piece of the entire puzzle. Another piece of phishing or social engineering attacks goes past phishing, and there's other attack vectors such as smishing, which is very funny sounding word, but it really just means phishing attacks over SMS text message. And what these are maybe a text message sent to your phone, and it's going to have a link in there, or it's going to have some kind of instructions for you to do something. Oftentimes it's going to have a link, and these are very successful in most instances because there's a misconception that you cannot get viruses or malicious software on your cell phone, but that actually is not true. You can get viruses and things on your phone. It's basically a little computer you're carrying around in your pocket, so be very careful, even with text messages. You don't want to be clicking on any link from any device from someone you do not know or not expecting. Same thing with phishing. I mentioned these phishing emails. Sometimes they'll include a phone number. What happens is when you do call these numbers, you're going to be calling, instead of calling, for instance, Best Buy or Amazon, you'll be calling the bad actor, and they're going to perpetrate as if they're from those companies, and then they're going to further the ruse and try and gather information or even convince you that they need to access your computer. When they do, they're going to deploy their software, and then that's where they are successful on their attack. One other we'd like to point out is spear phishing. As I mentioned with phishing, 10 or hundreds of thousands of individuals. If you think about fishing like you're on a lake with a rod and reel, you're just throwing bait, hoping for the biggest fish, right? And you're going to pull in the biggest fish. With spear fishing, you think of an individual in a creek or a river with a literal spear, and they're stalking one fish, right? They're going to try and go for that bigger fish. So these are going to be something that is going after an individual, maybe even a job title, position title, something like that. And then they're going to be very successful. A lot of times, they're about 3 times more successful than regular phishing attacks because of the amount of time and care and research is put into these emails to construct them. So with thinking about phishing, scams go right along with phishing, right? And with phishing, I think of phishing being the vehicle. It's really the capsule of where the link or attachment or malicious content is stored. Think of scams as how they're packaged and how they look and how they appear when they're being delivered. The whole purpose of scams is to trick you into interacting with something that's against your best interest. Once again, it's going to prey on your human emotions. And there's a lot of different scams. These are definitely not all of them. There are hundreds of scams out there that are just active on a daily basis. These are some that we see, and they're all different. If you think of maybe tech support scams to where someone's perpetrating as from a tech company, thinking that you have viruses on your machine, something to that effect. There could be holiday scams with the holidays coming up of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, things like that. And then as Paul mentioned, with a common attack is where someone will try to attack based on a throat cancer scam, saying that I have throat cancer, sending an email, or I have a virus or some reason that they cannot speak, and then they'll try and send these emails to financial advisors, which is why we have that in place that Paul alluded to earlier, that he must speak to all clients before making any money movement type transactions. So looking at ransomware, and that is, ransomware is often deployed through phishing a lot of times, and it's deployed in a lot of different ways, but phishing is one main vehicle that they use. And ransomware is a piece of malware that encrypts and blocks access to your files, as I mentioned earlier. You could be the owner of the file. You could be the creator of the file. But once that file is created or corrupt and encrypted, you're not able to open it at all. It will, instead of being a .docx or .jpg for like an image file or a Word document, it'll be something else .something, and it's going to be a longer extension. And when you try to open it, it's going to give you an error. It's not going to open right for you. We definitely hope that you are never a victim of this, but if you are, if you ever find yourself in the unfortunate situation, we recommend to never pay the ransom, and that follows along with the FBI's advice as well. For one, you can't trust criminals. You know, we consider these are criminals and they're trying to criminalize on someone else and for their own personal gain, and you can't trust them. They're already trying to take something that's not theirs from someone else that earned it, respectfully, and you have no idea if they're really going to give you your data back, or if they've already sold it, or whatever the case may be. And you also don't want to fund terrorism. You know, we consider these to be terrorists themselves because they're terrorizing on someone else for personal gain, and you don't know what groups they may be affiliated with. They could be funding a terrorist organization. They could be funded by a terrorist organization, and that's not something that I believe any of us would want to, be endorsing or supporting. What we recommend is to be proactive. Protect your data before you get hit by anything like this, and you can do that very easily by regular and secure backups of all of your data. And these backups should be done not just once, but on a regular basis and done every so often. And that cadence is going to differ depending on your personal needs. But when you do these backups, we recommend to clean the backup for malware once it's backed up and before you restore. So once you back up all of your data, just kind of use your antivirus, your anti-malware to scan that data and be sure you're not taking a virus with you. And then if you do restore, you're not restoring a virus that may already be on those files as well. And backing up, there's a lot of different ways that you can back up your data. For example, external hard drives are a great resource and a great way to back up some of your data. And there's pros and cons to every method, but external hard drives, you know where the data is at, you know where it's located. You can take that and store it in a particular safe or a box or something like that, and you know where that data would be residing, and you know who has access to that data. But they also can fail. So there's, as I said, goods and bads and pros and cons to both, or to all variations. There's also cloud storage, which is another great option. Cloud storage has come a long way over the past few years, and you could take cloud storage and actually back up all of your data to that. And one great thing to cloud storage is, say you have a computer, you have a laptop and it completely dies, the hardware fails. If you go buy a new laptop, you bring it in, you log into your cloud provider or your cloud storage provider, and now you can download all of that data or access that data immediately instead of having to take the drive and move all your data back. And then there's also encrypted USB flash drives, which those have dramatically decreased in cost over the last several years. And you can take those very little drives and store them just about anywhere. And you can store a lot of those little drives in a lot of different little, smaller locations and hide them or whatever the case may be. So the method that you use and the cadence that you use is really dependent on your particular circumstances. So we kind of went over some scams, went over phishing and things like that, and we want to be reactive to those in a very correct way and a very particular way. But before we actually have those, we want to make sure our accounts are protected without our involvement on a necessary basis. So one way you can do that is by having your passwords in a very strong and secure method. So you think about your passwords and think about them as the keys to your kingdom. Or better yet, you think about the keys to your house or keys to your car. If you're walking down a street somewhere and someone says, hey, can I have the keys to your house? I want to go check it out. Most likely you're not going to give them the keys to your house, right? Same thing with your car. If you have a nice new vehicle and someone says, hey, can I take your car for a ride, and you don't know who they are, probably not going to give them the keys. Same thing with your account. You don't want to just leave your account open or leave it where someone else can grab that account. So you want to make sure you have a strong and secure password. Not all passwords are the same, but it is imperative that you have passwords, but you need to make sure they are strong. And what I mean by strong passwords are upper and lowercase letters, special characters, and numbers. And we also recommend passwords to be 15 characters or more in length, which I know sounds crazy. I can feel people's eyes rolling at me right now, but there's a lot of ways that you can do that in a very secure method. Password managers are a great way to save and have these passwords and generate strong passwords within the vaults. So what these password managers do is you can manage your passwords on multiple platforms, such as your computer, a tablet, a phone, have them all over the place, but they're all in a secured vault, and they're an encrypted vault, so they're protected. And you can actually create strong passwords. So it's a great way from reusing passwords. Once you, if you use a password on multiple platforms or multiple systems, attacker gets a hold of that, username and password. They're going to try it on every platform they can possibly find to see if they can get into other accounts. If you have a different password for each, they're not going to be successful when they do that. So what you can do is just simply create a strong password. You tell it how long you want, the requirements you want, and it will automatically generate a password. And it's not a password that can be easily guessed, because it's not going to be something that's directly affiliated to you. It's just going to be randomly generated from the tool. Now, when you think about passwords and you kind of think about how strong your password is, just think about the length of your password and the requirements to most of your passwords. Generally 8 characters is a normal password, right? And if you go all the way to the right for all the requirements, numbers, upper and lowercase letters and symbols, using brute force technology, and there's other considerations to take in play here, that they have your username, they have access to, crack at that account itself, but using brute force, it would take about 39 minutes with the way technology has advanced. But if you go down a little bit to 15 characters, and you go over to the same requirements, now it's at about 1 billion years, which is a little bit better, right? But the whole point to this, these aren't absolute goals, right? We can't guarantee it's going to take 1 billion years. I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to say is that the longer your password is, and the more requirements and more characteristics you have in that password, the stronger it's going to be. You don't want it to be where it's so hard that you have to go write them down, which is a great thing for that password manager. But you definitely want to have it strong enough. If it's in the purple, red, or I even say orange, I would say upgrading that password and increasing those complexity requirements is a definite must to make your account stronger and more secure. In addition to having those passwords, passwords get out, and that's just the unfortunate part of it. There's additional pieces of security you can put in place, such as multi-factor authentication. And multi-factor authentication is just an added layer of security for any account. And what this is it requires an additional step of verification to log into the account. So you have your username, you have your password. Once you log in, you're going to get a text message, or you're going to get a notification to your authentication app with a code that you have to input or approve to get into the account. Great thing to this is if someone else is trying to get into your account, say you're traveling and you're at the airport, you get a notification that here's your multi-factor authentication code, but you're not on your computer, you're not trying to log in your account. Now you know, someone's trying to log into my account. Now I need to change my password as soon as possible. So you actually thwart someone else trying to get into your account, and you know that your password's been exposed. But then you can just go in very easily with the password manager, create a new one, update that password. And then it also gives you that extra security to where if someone does try to get in, even if you don't notice at first, they're not going to be able to get in without the extra code. So with that extra piece on there, really adds that extra piece of protection. And we recommend to put this on every account that you can, just to make sure you have that additional security enabled. Social media, we kind of cover that just because it goes along with your identity, goes along with your personal information, and it's something that we're all use. I mean, most everybody uses at least some form of social media, whether it be something for personal use like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, something like that, or professional with LinkedIn. Social media is just, especially after the pandemic, right? It just really blew up, and it's even more than it already had, and it's just something that everyone's involved in. When you're thinking about social media, we want to urge you to protect your account. And again, use strong passwords. Use strong passwords on every account, especially with social media, because there's a lot of things that can happen there. And we recommend you limit your sharing locations. It's very easy to have it set up where if you go to the gym, go to a restaurant, you go to somewhere else, and you have your sharing locations on, where you've told everyone where you are, but you've also told the cyber criminals where you're not. So now they know that you're not looking at your accounts, They know that you're traveling, so it's more time that they can spend to try and hack into your account. You want to consider what you post online stays online. So, would you want family members or maybe a future employee or your friends to see that information? Sometimes it's easy to post things out of rage or upset or something like that, but you want to make sure that it's something you would want to be there forever. And we recommend never to post any personal information on social media. Even if you know your connections and you know who the people are, which we definitely recommend you do, to know all of your connections and all of your friends. If their account is not secure and it gets compromised, that personal information is now seen by the attacker that took over their account. So it's not just what's on your page or what you're sharing, it's what others can see as well. And again, we recommend, while you know your connections, still do not post any personal information. And we put it on there twice for a very particular reason, because it is just that important.
And Joe, a question on social media like Facebook. They're now allowing, let's say I go on a legitimate site, I can log in using my Facebook profile and it starts linking these systems together. Any comments around that?
Generally, it depends on the system, depends on what you're accessing, and it really just depends on your own personal preference and your own due diligence, right? It depends on a lot of different factors. So I wouldn't say do it, and I wouldn't say not do it. It really just depends on that individual, because some instances it's much easier to log in that way. You don't have to remember the passwords, right? You have to remember that particular Facebook account. But then if that account gets compromised, then someone can see your activity and go with that. So it really just depends on what type of activity, your toleration for privacy or things like that. So it really just, it kind of depends. So when you think about the way things are opening back up, a lot of people are starting to travel again. A lot of people are getting out and about. You definitely don't want to be less secure. You want to probably be more secure when you're traveling. And you want to think about security more when you're traveling. You always want to value security over convenience. Convenience is, it's easy, it's convenient, right? But you don't want to just have things that are convenient that are against your best security or your best interest, right? So you want to stay vigilant on wherever you are. If you have a laptop device and you have a laptop computer, it's very easy for someone to walk up, grab that computer, and just walk away. And then they can basically launch attacks or do whatever they want or grab the information at their convenience. And that is, again, with traveling, why MFA is so important, because if something does happen to a device or something like that, you're able to keep that account from just being opened up. If they happen to get a hold of something, you still have to have that additional layer of security. Now, when you're traveling, there is a new thing going around, and it's been going on for a couple of years, but it's getting more and more to where these USB ports are being put up in various places. And it's just where you can go up, plug your phone in, and charge. There is a thing called juice jacking. It's a lower risk and a lower threat, but it's still one nonetheless. And it's not something that you want to have happen to you, because there's malware could be deployed on your device. It could be someone that's copying or taking a copy of your phone itself or your tablet. What we recommend is to always carry around one of these little charging ports. Have a block and have your cord with you so that you can plug it to the electrical outlet, and that would actually stop that. You can also get a portable charger. And these portable chargers, I don't have one on me at the moment, but these portable chargers are very small, about the size of a wallet, and they can just fit into your pocket. You take your cord, plug that in there, and you can get a full 1 to 2 charges off of that. And it adds extra convenience, because if you don't have your block, maybe it's in your bag, something like that, you can plug that in your pocket, put that device in your pocket, and now your phone is right there with you, getting a charge, and you know there's no one else that's able to interact with that particular port. Now, when traveling, or even when you're at home and you're around your local environment, you want to avoid public Wi-Fi. And what I mean by public Wi-Fi is any Wi-Fi that anyone else can get on. This could be unsecured networks to where you just connect and there's no password required, there's no authentication required, but there's also with passwords that say the network name and the password is plastered on a wall. If you have a sign that you go to, or it's on the counter, if anyone could read that, anyone could see that, it's an unsecured network, because anyone can log on. There's actually nothing keeping anyone else that's bad intentions from getting on there and doing attacks from there. If you do ever have to get on a public Wi-Fi for any reason, limit your activity. Don't forget to log out of your accounts. there's session takeovers, and a lot of different types of attacks that can happen if your accounts are not closed out fully and successfully. We recommend to use a virtual private network or a VPN anytime you have to connect to a public Wi-Fi. And this is basically a piece of software that goes on your device. They have them for mobile phones, tablets, even laptop, whatever it may be, and it just reroutes your network traffic where you're still going to the internet. You're still going to the same places. It just routes it in a different way so that someone else on that network cannot take that traffic in the middle in transit and download it or change it or modify it in any way. You can also use a mobile hotspot on your phone. But if you're going to do that, definitely before you do, reach out to your cell phone provider. Make sure you have a sufficient data plan, such as an unlimited data plan or enough of a plan that's going to allow you to tether and not have those additional charges, because those charges can be outrageous at times if you're not careful. So with your phone, I mentioned earlier that your phone can be susceptible to attack, and you can also have issues going on with your mobile device, right? And mobile devices they're so mainstream. A lot of people have them. Not everyone on the planet has one, but majority of individuals do, and a lot of people have more than one, maybe more than one phone, maybe a phone and a tablet, something to that nature. And you want to treat it just like your computer and make sure it's backed up and you have it safe and secure. You can always recommend to update your software regularly. Make sure that your operating system updates. When you're notified of an update, make sure you get that update installed as soon as possible. There's a lot of engineers that are behind the scenes working to get those updated and to push out those updates for you to keep everything secure. So you want to make sure that's installed. That also goes with applications that are on your device, and only install apps from trusted app stores or trusted apps from those stores themselves. Nowadays, you can go through and download apps from websites. That's definitely not recommended. We even recommend using legacy apps, things that are been around for a little while, that have been tested and are good. You can also put in mobile security software. And these types of software, you can look these up on the either the App Store or the Google Play Store. And basically what they're going to do is they'll check for viruses, check for vulnerabilities, even check for updates and things like that. And then we recommend to turn on user authentication. And again, use strong passwords. We want you to have strong passwords on your device, or we recommend to. That way, if your phone does get stolen, because that's very, very easy to happen, or your phone gets lost, if you don't have a strong password or a password at all, now the bad actor and attacker, they can peruse your phone and do whatever they need to at their convenience, and you don't want that to happen, right? So what you can do is have a strong password, and then you can have that user authentication on there, such as biometrics, your thumbprint, iris scanner, facial recognition software. So you don't have to put that password in every single time, but you can still have that strong password in the background so that if someone else tries to get on, they're not going to be able to. So now moving over into protecting your identity, and we're right here at the end. So I do appreciate everyone sticking with me. Just a few extra little pieces and a few things to consider for protecting your identity and also helping protect your family and those loved ones in your life. So thinking about your identity, our identity is so important, and us all being consumers, we're all consumers, right? We're all intertwined in this whole market of purchasing and credit and things like that. It can be a very dangerous place, and it can be something that a lot of attackers will take advantage of. So we recommend if you do not have any upcoming major credit purchases, or you're not in the process of doing any kind of new lines of credit, to freeze your credit. And what this will do is keep new pieces from being opened. So if someone tries to steal your identity and open up credit in your name, they will not be able to do so. But we also recommend to review your account activity regularly. It's not going to block everything that may happen if someone gets a hold of a credit card or something like that. So you want to review all of your accounts on a regular basis. Make sure you're keeping an eye out and see what's going on. Just kind of check your bank accounts, check your credit card statements, things of that nature, and making sure there's nothing nefarious going on, or making sure there's nothing abnormal going on. Again, beware of phishing emails. Phishing emails is a great way, or a very successful way, that a lot of these attackers are getting this information so they can compromise your credit or your accounts. So be very aware of all those phishing emails and kind of follow those red flags in that top-down approach I mentioned earlier. And again, use strong passwords. That's in there again. Promise it's almost the last time I'm going to mention passwords, but passwords are very, very important. It's a huge piece to the puzzle, a huge consideration, something to really keep focused on to help protect before you have any kind of issue, or protect from the outside so you don't have someone coming in and have to be reactive. Now, when you think about protecting your family, it's a very important thing, a very important topic, and it's something that I feel is missed a lot of times, and it's not always talked about. So if you think about cyberbullying specifically, cyberbullying is just the use of technology to harass, threaten, or embarrass or target a person, right? And it's not just children. It could be children, it could be adults. No one is really immune to this. It's something that affects everyone and really hits so many different people in so many different circles and ways. So when you have individuals from your family, you want to discuss cyberbullying, discuss the effects of both the bully and the bullier, the person being bullied and the person doing the bullying. So you want to make sure that you're looking at both sides and discussing the importance and the reasons why you don't want to be on either side of that. And then with your children or those loved ones in your life, you want to utilize parental controls. It's not going to always be the best. I have two young children, and my daughter doesn't always like it, but there's a lot of parental controls on her phone and on her devices that she can't access certain things. And in that, even if I have those controls, there's still random checks that we're conducting on a regular basis. Whenever we conduct these checks, you want to make sure they are indeed random and they're a really deep dive. You want to really dive into all the different pieces of the device and know exactly what's going on there. Don't just do quick spot checks, really dive in deep. And then don't share passwords. And those passwords, you don't want to share those. If there's multiple people on an account, you want to make sure you have that way to check or way to track what's going on. If something nefarious is posted on a social media platform or something sent or something like that, you want to make sure you know who's sending it so that you know how to help that person, to educate them and keep it from happening in the future. You want to also follow those individuals in your family on social media. It doesn't always make you maybe the coolest person. I'm not always the coolest dad for following my daughter on her Instagram account, but it's the best way to know what she's posting, who's interacting with her posts, and things of that nature. And then you also want to know their followers, and they should know their followers or those connections. A lot of children nowadays, or a lot of young individuals, they want to have as many followers as possible, right? Kind of a popularity contest in a way. But it's really more important to know who those people are, know what their intentions are, and really know who they are on a personal level, so that you know who you're interacting with and it's not someone else. There's a lot of attackers and a lot of these individuals out there that may make an account perpetrating a 14 or 15-year-old adolescent, and that's not someone that I would want my daughter interacting with. So it's very important that I know her followers and that she does as well. So that's the final presentation, right? That's the full presentation we have for you today. We definitely don't want to leave without giving you a call to action, just some things to consider and some really important pieces to kind of move forward after this call. So again, LPL is committed to supporting you and your advisor to protect your information, right? That's really at the core of what we're doing. Social engineering attacks, they try to take advantage of our human emotions, and they really want to drag you in and really get you acting in a way that's against your best interest. Do not click on any links or opening attachments from unknown sources. Make sure you know who those emails and those messages are coming from. Value security over convenience anytime we're traveling, and I dare say even while not traveling. Make sure security is at the forefront of all your decisions and not just what's convenient in that particular moment. And then find those ways that you can protect your accounts and protect your family and make sure that your identity is really being protected and housed in the best way possible. I do appreciate everyone's attention and everyone joining, and we can open it up for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Joe. That's excellent information, and you make it very understandable. So appreciate that. Any questions come in, Shannon?
Yes. What does Joe mean by freezing our credit? Does he mean to freeze credit cards if we're not using them and unfreezing them when we do, or is that related to something else?
So it's essentially, you can reach out to the major credit bureaus and just request to freeze your credit. And what this will do is if someone tries to make a new line of credits, purchase a car, purchase a home, things like that under your identity, then they won't be able to do so. And then unfreezing it is relatively easy as well. You just have to reach back out to those same credit bureaus and then unfreeze at that point whenever you do wish to make those credit purchases.
And there's really two levels. You can do fraud alerts or credit freezes. And they, depends on what you want to access. It all starts with the credit bureaus.
What password managers are available and which do you recommend, Joe?
So there's really a lot of them that are available out in the market today. We don't have one that we necessarily endorse from LPL's perspective, but what I can tell you is here on our team, we use one called LastPass. It's LASTPASS, and LastPass is an industry leader, and it's something that goes on multiple devices. You can use it on Windows, Mac, Android phones, Apple phones, whatever it may be. But what I can tell you is if you go to a website called PCMag.com, it's PCMAG.com, you can actually search for password managers. You can also search for VPNs or a lot of other services, and they're going to give you a kind of a collection of ones that are out on the market today, ones that you can kind of give you the pros and cons between the different ones. What I do recommend, regardless of the vendor that you choose, do not just take the free version. I recommend using the premium version. There's extra security features and extra things that go along with using those premium versions, and typically they're pretty cheap. I know LastPass is, I believe, $35, $36 a year, I believe it is, for the regular premium version, and that's a really great option to use. And that gives you the secured vault. That gives you where you can create those secure passwords. All those things I mentioned, LastPass definitely satisfies all those things.
And I find we use LastPass as well, and have used others in the past, other good ones. But being able to store secure notes, so I can put other information in there, not just passwords, passport information, things like that I may need to access, is really helpful.
Yeah, it's really necessary, especially if you don't want to write down your passwords, which we shouldn't. My dad's 85 and he has to write everything down because he doesn't remember it. So if you have a LastPass or some type of a password manager, then it's all saved in there and all stored in there securely. So it's a great idea. Here's another question.
When you have several hundred passwords to remember.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way. What is a VPN and how do I find one?
So a VPN is a virtual private network, and it's just something that, as I mentioned, kind of takes your routing of your internet traffic and just routes it in a different manner. It just kind of gives you that anonymity to where if someone is on the same network and they're trying to interfere or trying to take the traffic that's coming off your machine, something called man-in-the-middle attack is where someone is on the same network, and then as your data comes off your computer, they intercept it. This will avoid that, and this kind of takes that completely away. One great place to find that, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the PCMag.com. You can just type in VPN in the search bar, and it will give you various options such as Proton VPN, Express VPN, NordVPN, a lot of different options there as well. But again, premium version is recommended for those particular services as well.
Okay, and another one is, where can I purchase a portable charger?
So those you can find a lot of different locations. Actually, you can find them on Amazon pretty easily. They're pretty cost efficient. You can get them for $10, $15 for a very nice one. Usually about $10 is a pretty good price, I believe, for those. And you can get them in various configurations, various platforms. You can get them very, very small and very thin, and just about the size of a wallet or a little bigger than a credit card. You can get some that are a little bit bigger in size, but Amazon's a great place to start.
And you'll literally find them at every store, Targets and Walmarts, and they're everywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to access.
Here's one.
Sorry, Shannon. The prices have come down dramatically, including any type of storage device. I just bought a 18 terabyte drive to put everything on. It was like $200. Amazing.
Yeah, you'll have a hard time filling that one up.
Maybe not.
Be surprised.
Not with photo and video.
Oh, okay. I feel like my account has been compromised. What can I do and who should I notify?
So the best place to start first is to reach out to Paul and his team. Reach out to your advisor just to let them know what's going on. And then if it's something that you're really concerned with, they could reach out to us. We can give some guidance or some advice or just some input from our perspective. And then also, Paul can take a look at your accounts, make sure everything is protected. As he mentioned, that is something that's very important to him as far as keeping your identity safe and secure. So he can definitely look at that and check your accounts and put alerts on there to make sure there's nothing nefarious and something that's not you doing, going on in that account.
And LPL also has, senior security specialists, a lot of different specialists. So cybersecurity is one piece, but we as a front line can access all of that. And I have also reached out to the Postal Service to stop scams, a number of places, Senior Protective Services, whatever it needs to be. So we're a team. We really solve these problems together.
Yeah, and as far as triage goes, when something like this happens, the first thing you want to do is change your password. If it's your email that's been compromised, you want to change your password. If it's your Amazon account, whatever it is, change your password immediately.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have one more. Is it safe to save my passwords in my web browser?
I'm going to say no. That is actually a very dangerous way that if someone does get access to your machine, it's very easy for someone to get a hold of those passwords. And then as well, if something happens to that device and that computer completely, malfunctions or is no longer operable, now all those passwords are going to be completely gone. The great thing about a password manager is if that machine dies, you can actually pull that information, such as LastPass. I can pull that from my phone and it's synced together on all the devices so that if I take a new device and I log in, now I have all those passwords back. But if they're in my browser and they're not backed up correctly, in all intents and purposes, they're gone forever.
Okay, I think that's a wrap, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Okay,
So
well,
I do want to point out that if anyone has any additional questions that you think of later, please send them to Paul and he can kind of reach out to me and send those over and I'll be glad to help answer the best that I can.
And just as a reminder of all the services we do, and traditionally we would call risk management as more insurance-based, but that is where I inserted all of this cybersecurity fraud into the financial planning community, saying, it's identity and information that needs to be protected. It's such a vital part of our lives now. So I'm going to stay on my mission and continue to spread that word. But Joe, I can't thank you enough. That's really awesome information.
Thank you, Joe.
Good. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We wish you a safe and enjoyable rest of your week, and we'll see you at the next one.